What's up, PlayStation Universe, and welcome to episode 10 of PlayStation Fix. My name is Will Robinson, and joining me this week are two of our senior editors, Adam Byrne
Hi there.
and Kyle Prahl.
The powers that be let us make it all the way to episode 10. Can you believe that?
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
The corporation let
The
us take it this
corporation.
far.
The man didn't hold us down.
Is that going to be your intro from now on?
That's a pretty
The
long-winded
show
intro
must
that you can have.
go on. Well, every time we make it to a new episode, it's a victory, right? Oh, I can't believe we made it to
course.
episode 11. Oh,
True.
23. How'd we get this far?
Can't even count that high.
Well, one of our other regular podcasting members is not with us right now, but we're still gonna talk about him because we got a special thing that's going on, and he was able to contribute. For episode 10, we're gonna do our top 10 most anticipated games of 2016 to help kick off the new year.
Yay.
So we got Ernest Lin's list, and we all have our own. So we're gonna take a turn, and we're gonna go around, talk about our lists, compare them. We already should have checked them twice, but we'll see. And then we're gonna
Definitely naughty.
We don't know. We don't know
Definitely.
any of each other's games.
No, we don't know.
That's
Well,
kind of the cool thing about this.
we know
I have
Ernest
no idea.
because I know Ernest.
Well, because
but-
Advent Children and
Yeah.
Advent Children
Mhm.
and Advent Children
God.
and Advent
I hope he
Children
never
remake.
comes back.
Yeah, so I mean, this is going to be interesting to see what. So we're going to see. Yeah, we're just going to see where things take us on this. There's actually a lot coming out next
Yeah.
year, so it's a pretty exciting year for games. But I guess if one of you guys wants to start, should I start?
You can lead the charge, Will.
Oh,
So,
all right.
Sure, with the format.
So we're also going to do a couple of honorable mentions at the end because if we had trouble with our last couple spots. So I know I have a couple extra ones, but I have mine in order, more or less, from 1 to 10. Number 1, Uncharted 4. That's going to be for sure my most anticipated for next year. Number 2, Horizon Zero Dawn. Can't wait.
Ooh.
That was really good. Number 3 is Mass Effect Andromeda. Because Mass Effect.
Let me just chime in and say my number 3 was also Mass Effect Andromeda.
Oh, good man.
You got my first two as well, in that order.
Huh. And
Ooh.
number
Maybe this
4,
is-
number 4, Persona 5. Number 5, The Last Guardian. Number 6, Unravel. Number 7, Ratchet and Clank. Number 8, Gravity Rush 2. Number 9, Mirror's Edge Catalyst. And number 10, Deus Ex Mankind Divided. And then my honorable mentions that I fought between were Final Fantasy 15, Far Cry Primal, and Battleborn. That's my list.
Interesting.
Wow.
Interesting.
How do you hate Persona, Will?
Why do I hate it? I mean,
It's
I
only
just
number 4 on your list. Why do you hate Persona?
did you hear
Make
what is
my list.
before it?
I need
So
to get into that
so-
pretty serious. Yeah, it's not even in my list.
Jesus.
That's blatant ignorance, though, of the franchise
Pretty
rather
much.
than anything malicious. So,
So
just to say.
since Kyle had the most to say off of my list, he can take his turn now and put himself on the spot.
Well, very all.
He's stalling, he's
excellent
stalling.
games.
He is stalling. He's
Significant games.
rethinking what he had to say.
No, Persona 5 is my number 1.
Oh, okay.
So, which isn't to say I'm not excited for Uncharted 4 in any real respect. Uncharted 4 is my number 2, but I absolutely fell in love with Persona 4 Golden, and it flipped me
Oh.
onto the series in such a huge way. And I guess I don't know if I was trying to parse the difference between my excitement for Persona 5 and my excitement for Uncharted 4. It might just be that Persona is a little bit newer to me than the Uncharted series, you know. So there's a sense of
Yeah, but we
There's-
can
there's-
get more
there's-
into the
the
nitty
hype
gritty
for
of this
Uncharted-
stuff. Let's go through
Yeah, that's
the
true. I
list
gotta-
quick. So, I mean, I've got a lot to say about Persona too, and where
It's
we
true.
did it. So let's
So
go.
you hate Persona, I love it. Okay, number 2.
Yep, pretty much.
Uncharted 4,
I'm
as
none
you
the
said
wiser.
it, number 3, Mass Effect Andromeda. Good man, good choice. Number 4, Zero Time Dilemma, which many of our listeners might not realize is the third entry in the Zero Escape series, which was notable with Virtue's Last Reward, a visual novel on PlayStation Vita. So this is the third entry in that series, Zero Time Dilemma. Also coming to Vita, actually, which is a rarity. Number 5, Horizon Zero Dawn. Number 6, Final Fantasy 15. Number 7, Deus Ex Mankind Divided. Number 8, I have 9 written here. That's not right. Number 8, The Last Guardian. Number 9, Tacoma. And number 10, Dark Souls 3.
Any honorable mentions that you had on your list, or?
Yes. Oh, yeah, I did have a few. Yeah, so Kingdom Hearts 2.8 HD Remix. That's one of my honorable mentions. I'm excited to play the Dream Drop Distance remake. Danganronpa 3. Dishonored 2. Valkyrie, and Drive Club VR. Both PlayStation VR titles.
All right.
Yeah,
Interesting.
So definitely
interesting roundup.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
All right.
Right.
So Adam,
Okay, Adam,
your turn.
it's your-
Drum roll, please.
No.
Okay. Oh, thanks. Okay, I have decided to switch around 2 and 3, but whatever. Okay, so number 1, Uncharted 4, of course. Number 2, it's obvious. Number 2, Last Guardian. 3, Horizon Zero Dawn. 4, Rime. 5, Abzu. 6, Unravel. 7, Street Fighter 5. 8, The Witness. 9, Mother Russia Bleeds. And 10, Ratchet and Clank.
Honorable mentions?
I don't have any. I will say Tekken 7 if it comes out.
I mean,
Tekken 7.
they just got Akuma in there, so
That's
I mean,
true, actually,
that's a
yeah.
pretty big deal. That's why he's not in 5.
Jeez, yeah, actually.
All right, so now we'll do Ernest's list in memory of him.
Boring.
Number 1 is Uncharted 4 for Ernest.
Of course.
Number 2 is The Last Guardian. 3 is Final Fantasy 15. 4 is Deus Ex: Mankind Divided. 5 is Danganronpa V3: A New Semester for Everyone's Killing Life.
Did he really have to spell out the whole damn thing? Like,
Yep.
Danganronpa 3 was enough.
Well, he said new Danganronpa V3: A New Semester for Everyone's Killing Life. I just wanted to save time by skipping out on saying new, but too late now.
Give us a synopsis while you're at it.
All right. 6 is Persona 5. 7 is Mirror's Edge Catalyst. 8 is No Man's Sky. 9 is Gravity Rush 2. And 10 is Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth.
Nice.
All right. So
quite varied.
Good choice.
yeah, it's
All
actually
around, okay.
surprised.
That list seems indefensible, but I also didn't hear any Advent Children, so he's at least expanding his video game vocabulary.
Thankfully.
Yeah, he said Final Fantasy 15 instead of Final Fantasy Advent Children, so he knows there's more than just that.
Thankfully.
All right, so commonalities in our lists seem to be Uncharted 4, Last Guardian. I think that's it. In terms
Horizon.
of everyone's list. No, Ernest didn't have Horizon. You didn't have Persona 5, Adam.
That's true.
I'll play. Actually, was going to buy a PlayStation TV just to play Golden, but then
It's a good idea. It's a strong idea.
Then I didn't because the price went back up. But I will eventually play that.
That was
just like everything else.
It came back up from that $20 sweet spot, huh?
Oh, I like that sweet spot.
So yeah, I guess those are the
Can't
only
blame you,
three that we have in common. I think Kyle and I probably share most similarities.
See, at least you're near the top. Yeah, I mean, you are not excited for Persona, and that's unfortunate. But we do
At
have
number
Uncharted in high places, and Mass Effect Andromeda both
All
at
right,
number 3.
Since Kyle won't let this go, let's start talking about Persona 5.
How about
and why? We'll start going off on this. So, reason why I put Persona 5 as number 4 is because there's too much promise into it right now. There's not enough. I don't know what it's going to turn into. I don't know the story, because it's the same kind of thing. Reason why, actually, there's more for Final Fantasy 15. Why it wasn't on my top 10 list is because something that's very admirable for a lot of JRPG companies that do long-running series. Their games have similar elements to them, but they're not the same games. They're totally different stories. Or they're totally different characters and new, unique situations. They're not traditional series in that, right? So there's a lot of cool change that can happen with it, and there's a lot of things that could go bad because they're trying to be different and trying to set it apart. So this one is Persona 5 is clearly very different. I'm really excited for it from what I saw, where it's more of a kind of an actual like RPG type of running around through the city and interacting with people and doing all that stuff. didn't get to see anything for the battle system, which is kind of my biggest reservation so far.
Yeah, the only things
So-
we've seen are maybe like I know one trailer had like a 4, 5, 6 second clip of a battle right in between there, but yeah, I get what you're saying. I mean, it's a young series too, relatively speaking. You compare it to something like Final Fantasy, you put that right up against each other, and it's like, yeah, we are only on the 5th mainline entry of Persona, so there's less of a consistent history over the course of decades to kind of say, oh, don't worry, Persona
And it's
9
been
will
an
be the same.
it's
So,
been a very long time between the original release of Persona 4 and Persona 5.
yeah.
So there's a lot that could have happened in there. We don't know. It could be the greatest game ever made when it comes out. Who knows? But in terms of stacking it up against Uncharted 4 after being revitalized from watching some of the gameplay again
right.
recently, and Mass Effect Andromeda, which Mass
Well,
Effect series is like one of my all-time favorites ever.
I think it's important to keep in mind with Mass Effect, and I ranked it number 3, just the same as you did, but that might be in a similar boat where, we know that BioWare is interested in making some changes to the series formula. I think they've said as much in interviews, so that's kind of an unknown entity too. We're not sure how closely it'll resemble the 3 games that we know and love.
Yeah, but I mean, but in terms of like the games, what sells those games are gameplay, and then they have interesting characters too. Which
Yeah.
the characters changed from 1 to 2 primarily was kind of where the big shift was
Right.
for a lot of the party members and all that stuff, and it just kept getting better. It like consistently just grew into better games
Yep.
for gameplay and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's true.
So I mean, that has more. I'm more comfortable with that and the promise of what they're giving from that than I am for hardly knowing anything really about Persona 5 at this point. But,
Yeah, for me, I think Persona takes the cake in my book just because it's like a hunger thing. Like I gorged myself on Persona 4 Golden, and I mean, I can pretty confidently count it as the best JRPG I've ever played, just narrowly edging out Final Fantasy X, and I'd never thought any game was going to do that for me. So with this, it's like I still have only as much time as I sank into that, getting the platinum and all these other things. I've had less exposure to Persona as a thing than Uncharted, so I look at Persona 5 as, even if it's maybe some aspect of it is disappointing, like there's a character I don't like or the story goes in an odd direction, I have faith that Atlas will keep the core of the game and most of the things I loved about it the first time, and I guess it's just in my head there's a little more excitement swirling around it just because Persona is still very new in like my gaming life, whereas Uncharted has all this history, and I'm pumped to see the story end. And my excitement for Uncharted is a lot more personal, I think, because it's the relationship with characters that's grown over time and through the course of the story, and wanting to see that come to a definitive closure. And I'm sure both games will have a couple things about them that are slightly disappointing or that I don't like, but. I think for me it's just Persona edges it out because I'm such a sucker for a really good RPG, and I haven't had nearly as much Persona in my life as Uncharted, so I haven't had to hit that level of satiation yet.
Right. And one more thing that I'll say on Persona 4 or Persona 5 before we go on is that I have no doubt that the game is going to be fantastic mechanically, and it's going to play really well and feel really good and just be a lot of fun to keep getting into. But what made Persona 4 one of the best games that I've ever played in my life was getting to the end of that game and literally feeling like you were saying goodbye to your real life friends. That has never happened. That has never happened to me in any other game before. So it's like that. If they can deliver another moment like that in that game, it'll easily be. I mean, that'll easily replace something as one of my favorite games of all time in like a top 5 or whatever. But that's such an unknown element right now that I can't say that I'm fully excited for that versus like Uncharted 4 and Mass Effect, where I know that those games are just going to be so fun to play. Like I have no doubt. And then for Uncharted 4, I have no doubt that it's going to be fantastic. But Horizon, that's more of an unknown too. So
yeah, well, wait a second. Horizon was one of the ones that we weren't in total unison on either, right? Like it wasn't on Ernest's list, and was it on Adam's list? I don't remember.
Yeah, it's 3rd on my list.
3rd on your list. Okay. Was that one of the ones that you swapped around?
Oh.
Yeah, it was 2nd, but I swapped it to 3rd because Last Guardian kind of, I have history with that Team Ico.
So that's an
Actually,
interesting one, Adam. You've got
did you
Last
have Last
Guardian
Guardian?
really.
Yeah, Kyle, you had that Last Guardian
I've
too.
Yeah, but mine's down at number
Right.
eight. So
So, and
I have an idea of what
Ernest
you're gonna
actually has
say,
it
but
too. So all four of us actually have Last Guardian on our list. He's got it at number two. So it's one of
and
our.
Adam is the most. Oh wait, Ernest has it at number two. Okay,
Hmm.
that's an odd
He's
one
not
for me.
here.
I mean, yeah, that's true. We don't have to talk about him. I'm as excited for the last. I mean, when they made the Last Guardian announcement, when it came back and made its big E3 reveal, I was as ecstatic and surprised as anyone. But it just, if this is kind of going back to the unknown entity thing, it's been so long since. Well, for one thing, it's been so long since Shadow of the Colossus, and I know what playing Shadow of the Colossus felt like in 2006. I believe is when I played it on PS2. I know what that felt like in my life at that moment in my life, but that that's such an isolated experience, and it's so self-contained as its own game. And Team Ico certainly hasn't made a ton of titles in their time. Both of their
Hmm.
games are very highly regarded, but yeah, I
Hmm.
mean, I know the least about The Last Guardian as any game on my list, and that is what kind of has it towards the bottom for me. Still excited for it. It's in my top 10. I'm
Hmm.
It's highly anticipated for me, but I it it doesn't strike me as particularly innovative what we've seen so far, and that worries me only in the sense of I'm not worried it's going to be a great game. I just worry that maybe bits of it will feel kind of samey, like kind of oh, like I've
Hmm.
walked these beats before, or I look at the game and it's like with Shadow of the Colossus, I don't think anybody really knew what they were gonna be getting into when they started that game. But I see The Last Guardian, and I kind of have a sense of okay, I get this rhythm. I'm gonna be this kid. I'm walking alongside my animal companion. They're gonna really play off that relationship. I feel like I'm already kind of got a little bit of the cadence of that game in my head, and that's got it lower on the list for me. That sense of familiarity.
Hmm. So
Mm.
Adam, why is it number two
Well,
Yeah, why do
I
you
don't
love
know
Last Guardian so much, Adam?
and
because
hate
I
Persona
played it.
Fives?
No. Um, we'll get into that later, I guess. But I don't know. It just seems like the culmination of just my feelings towards Team Ico as a whole. A lot of my gaming metal back in the day was kind of forged playing random demos I would accumulate, and then going out when I had the money and buying the game. And Ico was one of those games, and it had a really kind of emotional kind of impact on me, and something that really resonated with me. And then Shadow of the Colossus came a couple of years later, didn't have the exact same effect, but maybe more so in a different way. It was equally as impactful, I think, and I loved that. Bought that day one, and I bought a PS3 mostly for Metal Gear Solid 4 and The Last Guardian, pretty much.
Oh, you poor soul. At
So
least
I
other.
was pretty late in getting a PS3, and yeah, just something. It's just tied to just my experiences with ICO and just it's nearly what it's over 10 years now, and it seems like the culmination of just this whole journey for me. So I'm keeping that at the top, and I don't think there's going to be innovation. I think they will play off that relationship with the animal and the kid, but I just think it's the emotive journey within it which is going to resonate best with me, and it
Yeah,
will
it
feel
sounds
like
like you're.
it will feel like a bookend to something
Hmm.
that kind of I've been holding on to for a while. Not so
It
much,
does. It does
yeah,
sound like it's kind of uniquely suited to your emotional situation and the nostalgia that you take
yeah,
into the experience. So that's something that
Hmm.
I don't necessarily have. Although I have fond memories of playing Shadow of the Colossus, but maybe not in the same kind of
Hmm.
transformative context that you
hmm
played Ico in.
No,
All right,
I
free
mainly
pass.
have
Oh,
like
that's
a
fair.
I have like
Free
a
enough.
more of a just a curiosity as to what the final product will turn out to be is partly why I'm more excited because there's it's been so long since they've been working on it. It's had so much turmoil that most of the time somebody's going to pull the plug on those kind of projects when you lose that much money or you think you're going to lose that much money working on this and it's been so long and nothing's going anywhere and people are being fired or they're leaving and all that kind of stuff. But then it's just like there really has to be something special about this game that they're
Right.
keeping it alive and they've kept it alive and they're putting so much time and effort and money into doing this. And especially with like
There's something.
constant endorsements by Shuhei Yoshida is what makes
yeah.
me excited for it. That it's just like he.
Yeah, I'm of two minds there because you're right that it must have some special sauce to be coming back after all this time. But what was the because it could have been something about the game in its fairly early stage that kind of sent it down the wrong track too, where they're like, I don't know, we're not quite confident. This doesn't feel right. It's going to cost a lot of money. So then, I think what'll be telling, and I don't know if we'll ever get the full story, but it would be cool to see what does the original Last Guardian look like the version from 2008, 2009, like in development. Then what spiraled it down into development hell, and then what transformations took place that kind of said, okay, maybe this is a good idea, maybe this can happen now. And I'd be curious if any of those changes were gameplay related or story related. You know, maybe there's some new confidence because of some new thing that was added or changed.
And so I think that could be cool depending on how if they just kind of scrapped it and started over with a new game after a while and just kind of built it back up, or if they sort of kind of patchworked it together to make it that, like, it still works really well, but it'd be interesting to see if there are parts in the game where you can tell that, like, something changed when it got to this point and it moved on. Not that it would be bad, but again, it's the same thing too, is that they could have been just working on it for so long and thinking that what they're doing is going to be so awesome that it turns out to just be crap, which I don't think that's going to be the case, but it really could be where you just get
blinders on.
Yeah, you get blinded by your own project.
It's odd though. Like, they're in a pretty unique position where they haven't released a ton of games, so financially, they're being backed. But you have to wonder at what point do you pull the plug? And I guess it has to be the kind of the voices of the fans and stuff really imbuing both Sony and Team Ico with a sense of confidence and like kind of a necessity that we need to finish this game. You know, this is a saga. You have to get it out the door eventually. I think if fans didn't care as much as they did or do, it would have been canned probably a long time ago. But it's a testament, I guess, to their previous games and the reception that fans have had for those games that kind of keep it coming back, and just the fact that it actually is finally coming out next year it's the end of an era. Unless they make a fourth game and they take 10 years to make that. I'll be giving up, I think, at that stage.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be crazy once it's actually out, and then people stop talking about
forever.
it. Yeah, I hopefully not.
Remember that old chestnut?
Kyle does. He platinumed it.
God, Kyle. it's not up there with
weird. This was a strange thing for me because I was in a really hardcore trophy hunting time in my PS3 career, my PS3 life cycle, and that game was a rental. Seriously, a physical rental. Because I felt like I knew it was bad, and everybody told me it was bad, but I felt like it was a legitimate part of game history that I felt, okay, I need to play this for like 10 minutes at least. Just, this is Duke Nukem Forever, it's a thing, and I got to do my due diligence, my reading, my required reading, as it were. And then I got into playing it, and I saw the trophy list, and I'm like, this isn't really that bad. I mean, there's some
and then it was really
that
bad.
I'm in no position to judge. I played Land of the Babes and really enjoyed it, and the previous Nukem games that were decent. Land of the Babes was actually disgracefully bad. I don't know. I kind of liked it.
So the problem is when I had to replay the game, I think 3 times to get all the difficulty trophies.
Did you stare at yourself in the mirror a couple of times during that process?
Sorry, I'm turning beat red because all I heard was stunned silence as I said that. I was repeating the gameplay. It was, it was rough. And now, the problem is that it's forever there. That's kind of the cool thing, is that I have a great water cooler trophy moment I can always share. Oh, have you met Kyle? He has the Duke Nukem Forever Platinum.
That's the last time you'll speak to them.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, it's a quick way to end a relationship.
So let's move back to the good games that we're going to talk about. So Uncharted 4 we touched on. We did a long conversation on it earlier, which you guys can definitely check out in our previous episode. So you probably would know why. Yeah, you probably know why that we are excited for it already if you listen to that one. But we can kind of recap a little bit of why, or where it is on our list. Is number 1 for me.
It's number 1 for me as well.
Kyle hates Uncharted 4.
God damn it, Kyle.
Kyle hates Uncharted. It's number 2.
Number 2. And then it's number 1 for Ernest as well. So, I mean, that's resounding excitement.
I hate Uncharted. I hate Naughty Dog. I hate Nathan Drake. God. Sully can go take the piss for all I care.
Hold on,
he can die for real at some point. God.
That's not possible anymore. He's dodged it a couple of times.
So, yeah, I mean, Uncharted 4, it looks like it's evolved. It looks like it's becoming the Uncharted game that Naughty Dog wanted to make, from what they've shown.
The culmination of
mechanically,
all their
yeah.
efforts.
So it looks like it's just going to be the best. It looks like it's on its way for sure to be the best Uncharted game that's come out, which is ridiculous to say.
The bar will be upped once again.
Yeah, but after 2 and then after 3, now it's just like I can't believe that it looks like they're going to beat themselves out again. Even probably compared to The Last of Us, they're going to do it better.
You got to believe in Naughty Dog.
Yeah,
Always.
no kidding. So, just looking through my list. What other ones do we have in common? I know Horizon. Yeah, Horizon. We haven't talked about it all yet.
Where's Horizon on your guys' list? It's number 5 for me.
Number 3 for me.
Number 2.
Why? Oh, gee, I just hate Horizon.
God damn it.
Pretty much.
Horizon looks sick. Yeah, so the one that beat it out for me was Zero Time Dilemma, and that's on nobody else's list, so I have to kind of sit here and just be like, no, trust me, guys, this game is great. You gotta
justify yourself.
really look forward to it. Well, I mean, this is maybe a good point for me to say why I'm excited for this game and why maybe some of our PlayStation fans should be paying attention to it, because Virtue's Last Reward was one of the early Vita games, I feel like definitely first year and a half-ish of Vita's release, so we're talking probably early 2014, maybe late 2013.
Was it free for a while?
It was on Plus, yeah.
Okay, so that's how I got it, because I was trying to remember.
Oh, you do?
When I got it was way later than that, so I was like, that makes sense.
Yeah, I do think it was on Plus. It was a free Plus game at some point. Yeah, so I reviewed it for PSU. Definitely one of my early reviews in that sense, and I had never really played a visual novel before, and what makes Virtue's Last Reward special as a visual novel is that it's also kind of a point-and-click puzzling adventure. So there's a lot of exploration involved. There's a lot of really difficult choices you have to make under these stressful kind of Saw movie horror circumstances, without diving into too much detail. But it's really cerebral also. It really gets you thinking about just the nature of even a 50-50 choice, even a yes or no choice, and what kind of parallel realities that can create. And then you actually start to move across these parallel realities, and the game gets so trippy. It's such a mindfuck from there.
Mm-hmm. Well, that one too. It's like
and
it
I
brings
remember
in a lot.
I would prop it up on a little stand. Sorry, say again.
Oh, I was gonna say that it brings in a lot of elements from other types of kind of psychological, or like even just like puzzlers and that kind of stuff. Where I remember playing it, like one of the things after every round you'd be like paired up with somebody in a room, and then you both have to make a choice. And you either trust them or you don't. So like that kind of thing where it's like you either assume that they say, "Oh, I'm gonna say no," so you have to say yes, and then we'll both be safe. But if they say yes, then you're screwed, so that you could get hurt or whatever. And then it's like they do a lot of like traditional things, but they repackage it in a good way. So
yeah, and there's all those little elements. I mean, it's got those classic pull the rug out from under your feet. Choose your own adventure, sudden deaths that come out of nowhere and just sidewind you. And then once you start to find the right paths, like the game sort of wants you to find, not only do you find those paths and start to get toward the true ending, but the game's narrative actually has an explanation for why you're finding those paths and why you're on a different track now. Like, I'm making different choices. And the dialogue, like I'll never forget the first time that a character's dialogue referenced the fact that I was in a different reality, that some other choice had been made in a different timeline. Like that blew my mind completely, because I had no idea that was like the premise of the game, that it was going to break the fourth wall and do all kinds of crazy stuff from there. I mean, that's only getting started on the surface, but yeah, it was an amazing visual novel, and probably just after Persona 4 Golden, it's my second favorite Vita game. So I'm completely stoked to see this next installment, which could be the last one, because there's a lot of loose threads from Virtue's Last Reward.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I played through it and I did beat it as well, but it didn't rank nearly as highly in my catalog as it does for you, Kyle. But I definitely would look forward to that game too. Actually, I don't even know if I even realized it was coming out next year.
Yeah, it definitely flew under the radar, the announcement. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's why you're here, so you can bring attention to the games that need it.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone should play it. So yeah, that beat out Horizon for me, but narrowly. I mean, what I've seen of Horizon, like everybody, it's just what Guerrilla's doing with encounter design and the way you can approach these combat situations out in the open world strategically, whether you're setting down tripwires or kind of strategically leading a herd of these robot dinosaurs in the direction of your choosing, and then just and it's got, I think, Guerrilla Games' signature technological flair. Like they
Hmm.
care so much about visuals and the way the systems of the game support that. So like when they zoom in on that robot, that boss dinosaur that you fight in the demo, and they point out it's something crazy. I don't even know what it is, but he's got like 200 individual points of
It's like
damage with
270 some different plates on his body.
yeah that can be
271
individual.
plates on his body with different health bars, and then there's like,
Exactly.
yeah.
Individually knocked off, revealing different weak points, and he's made up of like 2 million polygons or something ridiculous.
Yeah. What's
So
the
yeah.
craziest thing to me is that it's Gorilla
Mhm.
like making this game. Like
Yeah,
it
that's
doesn't make any sense. Like when it got revealed, everyone was like, "What the heck?" Like
That's what
this.
makes it so exciting.
Yeah, that's why it's so good, and that's a testament to them talking about their technological flair and stuff for their visual style. That it's crazy that it's all like, well, it's like the restarting of civilization type of setting, but
mhm.
none of those machine,
Post apocalyptic.
yeah, none of the machines look out of place in the
You're
natural
right. Yeah.
environment, which is just this doesn't make any sense. So I don't even know how they can do that. It's just crazy.
This is a really interesting opportunity for Gorilla, and it's probably part of the reason I'm so excited. But like, and you alluded to it, the fact that the world has this built-in history and all the creatures.
Hmm.
I mean, they were there. I think we're told before, humanity kind of
Yeah,
died out,
and
went
they've got
away.
like
So
city skylines and stuff too. So
exactly.
it's like,
So it's there's huge potential there for Gorilla to tell a story better than it has in the past. To be frank, Killzone has fine stories, but it's certainly not known for its great
they're not that
storytelling and its great
memorable.
characters. Exactly. And for this game, they've hired the lead writer of Fallout New Vegas to write the story, to write the quests. And that says a lot to me. Even in the sense of like, okay, Guerrilla wants to do this really ambitious open world action RPG, but they know like we're not the best story writers, we never have been. So let's hire this guy. I'm trying to find his name. Well, it doesn't matter, right? But they just found somebody who like wrote really great stuff for Fallout New Vegas and
Hmm.
said, "Yeah, we need you to be our lead writer because you know what you're doing and you can take our gameplay ideas to the next level with a good story to dress it up."
Yeah, I think that's a really exciting thing now that developers today are becoming more comfortable at taking like bringing other people in to help work on their game on
Hmm.
like really big ways, and like what we talked about Final Fantasy VII before, like the CyberConnect 2 and people like that coming in, or like id working on the shooting mechanics of Fallout 4 and all that kind of stuff. This is really cool to see, and that it's very encouraging future for games if that's a continued trend. So but yeah, so why are you excited, Adam, for Horizon?
For all the reasons above. No, I think Gorilla have always like I really enjoyed Killzone 2 and the rest of them were
Hmm.
pretty serviceable. Like I enjoyed them, but I didn't think they were outstanding by any means. And just to see that they're not kind of shoehorned into that kind of muddy brown first person kind of area anymore and seeing them expand into this huge open world with all these beautiful colors and a post apocalyptic kind of landscape. It's just really interesting, and they're one of the studios that I always just wanted to see kind of flex their arms, and expand a bit and really try something new.
Hmm.
And the fact that they have employed the lead writer of New Vegas to help with the story is it's interesting because they really are addressing a key issue for me with their past franchises, in Killzone. So I think when you put all that together, the setting, the fact that they're flexing their arms again, this new expansive world they're building, and then the writing as well, and the story seems to hopefully be that pretty good. I think it's got all the characteristics of a fantastic game, and I think there's no reason to really doubt them at this stage. I think it actually looks that impressive, so that's why it's up pretty high on my list.
Yeah. All right. So what was another one that we all shared? Just the ones that we talked, for me anyway, we talked a little bit on Mass Effect Andromeda. We didn't go very deep into it, but
Kind of speaks for itself. I mean,
yeah.
Mass Effect is just it's time. I've been missing that series, and I've been thinking about, oh yeah, now might be the right time to replay all three of them. But I think I'll wait a little bit closer to Andromeda's release, or at least
For a collection.
if they officially announce the release date. Yeah, maybe that's kind of a given, isn't it?
Yeah, it seems like it would be.
That's such a safe bet to have a PS4 or remaster section. But
Well, isn't
yeah, I'll definitely
one
replay
isn't?
them. It's
I
just,
thought one was exclusively owned by Microsoft, wasn't it? Or did it come back out on
well,
PSN?
you can play one on PS3 actually.
Oh
They
yeah,
they
it did come
finally
out for
release,
PSN. Yeah,
a digital version of it at least.
yeah. So then that would make sense.
So yeah, I'll definitely replay those. But yeah, I think it's just exciting because traditionally, and this differs a little bit from Uncharted 4, it's like we know what we're getting with Mass Effect, this epic science fiction story and these epic science fiction worlds, but Andromeda is also kind of a reset button, which makes it unfamiliar territory, and that's exciting to me, all the potential there and getting to meet an entirely new cast and not having any of the baggage of your previous character, your previous storyline. It is a totally fresh start in a new part of the universe or a different galaxy.
Yeah, I just can't wait to jump back into
That's
that
probably what
world.
I'm most looking forward to, is just kind of saw in the series. Yeah.
So was Andromeda on your list, Adam? I didn't think it was.
No, it's not.
Oh,
Again,
so-
it's a series I
Hates
tried
Mass
to get.
Effect.
I know. I tried to get into number 2, and these sort of really
How
expansive.
did you try? You should have gotten
Okay,
into number
the
2.
way it works for me pretty much is if it's
Yeah,
a really,
okay.
Hold on. I've got reasoning. It's poor reasoning. It's reasoning. Every time there's a game like that's like big, kind of like wide-arcing storyline, and kind of like you're answering questions and kind of choosing different dialogue paths and stuff. It needs to catch me at the right time in my life. Like sometimes I really want an expansive game, and sometimes I want a really linear, story-driven, like 2-hour experience. So it just has to catch me at the right time. And unfortunately, when I was playing Mass Effect 2 and I had it, it didn't catch me at the right time, and I just didn't get as engrossed as I possibly could have if I had picked it up at a different point.
So how many hours would you say you put in?
I'd say I put in 6.
0.3.
No, that's more than I thought.
I think it was over like 3 days, and then I had to go somewhere. I think out of the country, and then when I came back, I kind of just it fizzled out. But if a collection
Lost
came out, I
sense
would
of-
like to try it again. I guess I do appreciate those games. Like
I mean, you can skip past 1. 'Cause
yeah, I've heard that.
it's just the story is good, but I mean, its controls are god awful compared to the newer ones.
It is.
Yeah, no,
That's
perhaps the summer is my time to really dig deep into the back catalog. Well, the old back catalog. We have new layers of back catalog now. Thank you, Flash sales, but
Yeah,
How-
we have multiple volumes of the back catalog at this point.
yeah.
Well, speaking of layers, I know that Adam's excited about this game too, and that's Unravel,
Sweet segue.
because we both got to play that at E3.
Yeah.
Oh, you did? I
Yeah.
didn't realize you got to play it.
Yeah, we both got to play it for a while at E3. That was like the only demo at E3 that I was just sad that it was over,
Yeah.
because I just wanted to keep playing.
Okay, so my question to both of you guys is, does it control more like a Little Big Planet-esque platformer, or more of kind of a scripted, sort of slowly moving left and right across the screen? Because the trailers all kind of make it look like Yarny is kind of slowly tying up his yarn to slide down, and then slowly gallivanting to the right. So is it more platformer, or is it more like narrative?
I don't know if we will agree, but I think the physics are very Little Big Planet centric.
Yeah, it's floaty.
It's
Okay.
quite floaty and kind of it has that Little Big Planet
You
kind
have
of
to do like
sensibility to it.
grappling and all that stuff. Yeah, it's for sure a really good platformer. Like,
Okay, so it's got still some So it does think of itself as a platforming game versus just a
Yeah, well, one
yarny
like
story.
yeah,
No, yeah, exactly. It's a balance between the story and the journey and the struggle of Yarny and the one central mechanic of your piece of yarn that you're trying to like put up different areas of trees, which will make that drop, which will make you flip over, which will make you entwine with this other branch, which will make you follow. It's like it is a pretty interesting puzzle game. I know like the 25-minute section that I presume both Will and I played the same section. I don't think they were probably showing anything else, but the puzzles weren't hard. Like they were. It was it didn't interrupt the flow of the game. It was nice, kind of. They weren't really really easy, but they didn't make you think too hard, and it was nice. It was a nice kind of flow to the gameplay.
Yeah,
It didn't
I'm sure
impinge on the story and stuff.
yeah, I'm sure I'd would have felt a lot more relaxed if I was playing it by myself. But I could see the person next to me, the people next to me playing it, and I was trying to be faster than they were. So,
How old are you, Will?
but then it would cause some like I'd get screw up at certain parts because I tried to rush through certain areas or something. But yeah, the demo was unique because there was no set ending to it. It was basically they just threw you in the game and said just play as far as you can get to within this amount of time. So that was kind of cool. But yeah, it's just
It gets sadder and sadder.
the trailer just alone was just like so. I think it might have just been in the demo. There was a video that we watched. I think was only that was a special scene that wasn't at
With the car
the
going
normal
by
E3.
and stuff. And,
But it was like sitting. Well, there was like the animation with like the grandmother, or whoever, like sitting at the table and walking through and doing all this stuff, and it was just a really impactful story from no dialogue whatsoever. It's just really cool.
It's really commendable that EA are kind of back in the game, and I hope to God it is really good and it does well, because I can't remember who the creator was, the guy who was on stage. You can just see how passionate he is about the project, and you know, I want it to do well. I hope it does well. I hope it justifies it doing well. I hope it's good, which I think it will be. And it's out in 2 months now, so nice little February game before Uncharted.
Yeah, that'll be great. So yeah, I guess I've already gone through the top 6 of my list. So are there any others that are up a little higher on your guys's that we haven't gone over yet?
Let's see.
Well, I think my number 6 is Final Fantasy 15, and we haven't talked about that at all.
Yeah, it's number 3
so yeah,
for
that rounds
Ernest.
out my top 6. Okay, and then it wasn't on either of your lists, correct?
No.
Right, it's an honorable mention for me.
Okay.
Yeah, if I had honorable mentions,
Here's the thing about Final Fantasy 15 for me. I have it higher than, just to kind of give context. For me, it ranks higher than Deus Ex, although just barely. It ranks higher than The Last Guardian, and it ranks higher than both Tacoma and Dark Souls 3. It's not exactly like the stiffest of most anticipated competition, especially when you consider my own history with Final Fantasy games. But when I think about 15, I think about playing Episode Duske, the demo that came with Type 0 HD, because that is, that's the only way that anybody has been able to actually play it out in the real world. So the demo gave me confidence in the final product, but not a ton of confidence. So it's this weird in between where I enjoyed the combat, and I think I was skeptical that the combat could really work and that it was going to, it's just such a departure that you think, can Square really do this? They've never done it to this point before. I mean, Kingdom Hearts, sure, but this is even weirder than Kingdom Hearts in the way that you hold a button to execute combos, and the way your combos are based on the weapon you have equipped and how you're switching those weapons. So it's all very different. It's totally new for the company. There are things I didn't like about the demo. There were pacing issues. The balance was way off. There were way too many enemies in some places. Like, your party was just getting demolished by how these 20 goblins would just stream into the room and just completely wreck you. And I felt like I had no defense. I felt really kind of, pigeonholed. Like, the game just wasn't clicking for me. But I could see the cornerstones of something that could be really special. Like, it did have poison and confusion status effects, and that's something that is such an iconic Final Fantasy thing, such a little Final Fantasy thing, that frankly I didn't even know it was going to be in this game. So it had these callbacks to Final Fantasy, the way you could summon Ramuh at the end of the demo, and it's like the most epic incarnation of Ramuh we've ever seen by far, and the way you have the text box that appears when your summons are up, and it harkens back to FF7, FF8, the way those dialogue boxes appear. So it's got all these little callbacks that helped me ignore my problems with the combat. And then a week after the demo came out, Square's the game's director, Hajime Tabata, came out and said, "We've heard all your feedback. We're changing a ton of this." You know what I mean? They're actively
patching a
listening.
demo. What was going on there?
Right. They gave it a huge patch, and I'll actually, full disclosure, I actually haven't played the updated version of the demo, but I mean, the moment that it came out that people were really upset with the way Noctis moves, he's like, okay, starting now, Noctis is not as sluggish. He can turn better on a dime. You can interrupt your combo to guard where you couldn't do that before. You got locked into your moves. So all these things were changed almost immediately, and then incorporated into the development product at large and was their basis moving forward. So I just think that the passion of that team is really, really evident. For the first time, Square is opening the doors or the windows and letting us peek in. If they're letting developers talk to us almost without reservation. We're getting tons of updates on the game, and that gives me a lot of confidence because I've never thought of Square Enix as anything other than a juggernaut developer. And when I think of a juggernaut developer, I don't usually think of a nimble team that can make quick changes on the fly in response to fan feedback, but this seems like totally the opposite. Like the first Final Fantasy that's really going to listen to the fans, and hopefully it does the series justice, but if nothing else, I'm extremely excited for what's going to be the most different Final Fantasy main series entry in basically ever. And on top of that, I've been able to play it, and I know that there's a solid foundation there that they just have to improve upon. So, yeah, I guess it's just it had its moment in the spotlight for me, and I played it, and there was enough to be confident about there that it moved it up my list.
Interesting. So there's a couple of reasons. So like I had it as an honorable mention just because apart from like a lot going along with a lot of what you said and some other just kind of general interest is to see what it turns into. But it just I haven't seen I haven't played it or seen the demo since it's been patched. I haven't played it at all, but I watched different people play through the original core demo of it, and it just really looked like something I didn't want in terms of mechanics and how it was moving and how the camera was pulled in really far and the movements, and it looked really repetitive for the combos and button mashing, and it seemed very un-Final Fantasy to me, and just the general art direction so far I'm not convinced on, where it's very dark. It's to bring up something else again. It looks like Final Fantasy VII Advent Children's type of art direction, where it's darker and gloomier and
Right.
a lot more black, and that's fine. But it's just all the traditional Final Fantasies are a lot brighter, excluding maybe 8 had a little dark, but still a lot of color in that.
Right.
I wasn't sold on the whole setting of it either necessarily, where it's just like high fantasy, but it looks like you're in like
The real world, like real world Tokyo.
Well, it was that, but it was also like there were scenes where it's like guys in suits of armor getting into like modern day styled cars and stuff, and it's just like that whole weird like kind of fantasy reality balance that they're trying to pull together just doesn't work for me personally. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Like I like both of those types of aspects, or being able to take some fantasy elements and incorporating them into a modern world, or taking modern elements and incorporating them in fantasy. But that kind of thing where it's like if you have suits of armor with like modern equipment and weaponry and all that stuff, it just doesn't make any sense unless it's like Spartan, like Halo type of armor or things like that,
or maybe if it's like and it could be a context thing too, like maybe in the final
if it's just
game,
ceremonial, or if
exactly
it's
ceremonial stuff. We'll see. I'll admit that the trailers and stuff, it's more gameplay that has my confidence at a good level. Like I hear you with the repetitive thing, and I think the demo was a really, as much as I did enjoy it, at least like middle of the road, I could see places combat could improve. They picked a really awful area and setup for that demo, where it's like, here's this massive field, and
it's like half the
you
time
have
you're just walking.
Right, you have no fast travel option, and the story takes you from one end of the field to the other, and it's not even totally clear about where you need to go. So you might wander around for hours, totally unclear. Like it was just not.
Yeah.
It was not a great.
Well, it's just like the setting of that area just seemed weird too, where it's like high fantasy, but you're in like with like pine trees. It looks like you're in like either kind of like the North Woods area or in like Sweden. It's like it doesn't make any sense to me from like Final Fantasy games. It just seemed weird. But one thing that was really cool though was like when people figured out how to glitch out of the restricted area and go and explore different areas. There was one like crystal kind of like gigantic like crystal rock that was like jutting from the ground, and you can glitch into that area and go underground through there. And when you get underneath there's like a giant that's like holding it up on his back, like in the Atlas kind of pose.
Yeah.
And it was like,
it's really cool.
what?
I think that's supposed to be Titan.
Yeah,
I think
that's what
supposed to
people
be
were kind of
classic
thinking.
Titan.
Yeah, so it's like, is
Um,
that related to the story? You're going to see this crazy scene where he comes busting out of the ground as you get him as a summon, or you have to fight him, or
And I
so I
think
think
what's
that's.
going to be maybe new and fresh for that game versus previous entries are the set piece moments, like the E3
Hmm.
trailer that had the Leviathan attacking the city and like buildings are flying through the
Hmm.
air because of the whirlwind that Leviathan is kicking up, and it's scripted much in the same way that some Uncharted moments are scripted, but in a Final Fantasy game, it's like I think I love the old turn-based systems as much as anybody else, but to me, what's cool about action RPGs is that they get a little bit closer to what I always envisioned the
Hmm.
turn-based battles were in my head. Like the
Yeah.
turn-based battles are a symbolic representation of this party in combat, and it was just convenient for them to be turn-based and simple in that decade.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think that's what I love about Kingdom Hearts. Not to get off on a tangent, it's just how
Yeah.
you got the oomph behind every swing, and it was live in real time, and the moments felt epic. So to bring that into a Final Fantasy game, I'm pumped for.
Yeah, and that's like I love action RPGs. Probably I like them more than turn-based probably half the time, just because I like being able to run around and just be feeling like I'm doing something all the
Right.
time and being active. Like if I want to play a game for a long period of time, it's definitely gonna be turn-based RPGs because they just offer more traditionally than action ones. But that's partly why I'm excited for 7. But it was the problem I had was that the action RPG mechanics that were shown in the demo, at least in the first version of the demo, were just it just looked bad. Like it didn't look good at all. So I'd have to
Yeah.
go back and see what they've changed or what they fixed, but it was a very poor direction from what I was hoping for. So
Mhm.
I don't know.
All right.
But it's a game that I'll end up playing for sure at some point, but it's definitely not one I'm confident enough right now to say that I would buy it day one. So that's kind of where it falls. Where everything else on my list, I'd probably be pretty comfortable buying it day one, more or less.
Oh, sure, sure. You hate it. You hate Square. You hate Yoshi P.
Yeah,
You hate everything that company represents. Nomura, he can go to hell.
pretty much.
I feel you.
Worse than the Konami.
Loud,
God.
loud and clear, Will. Loud and clear.
Cloud and clear.
I was just thinking that. Yeah.
Damn it.
Yep.
So what's left on my list remaining? I've got Deus Ex: Mankind Divided at number 7. The Last Guardian at number 8. We've talked about Last Guardian already. Number 9 for me is Tacoma. I can talk about that a little bit. And number 10 is Dark Souls 3.
Okay, Adam.
So
What's your
Yeah.
list?
I have a couple left. I've got Rhyme, Abzu, Street Fighter V, The Witness, Mother Russia Bleeds, and Ratchet and Clank.
Okay, I have Ratchet and Clank, Gravity Rush 2, Mirror's Edge, Catalyst, and Deus Ex: Mankind Divided.
Adam, there's a lot of games in the bottom half of your list that I think a lot of people aren't going to have heard of. So why don't you
Mm-hmm.
walk us through some of those indie titles and why you're excited for those?
Will do. Well, one of the first ones, number 5 on the list, Abzu, is done by Giant Squid Games, I think they call it, Giant Squid Studio. It's effectively, if you like Journey, it's Journey, but in the water. Ernest and myself were playing it at this year's E3, playing a kind of slight vertical slice of the game, and it's just Journey set in the water, pretty much. You're just deep sea diving, going around to this kind of lully symphonic music and just interacting with all different like flora, not fauna, flora and all the fish and everything. It's just really relaxing and kind of it's a game again. I like those kind of 3 or 4 hour experiences where not a lot is happening narrative wise. You're kind of constructing it based on just the effect of the music and how you're interacting with NPCs, as it were, and just different parts of the environment. So that's one of the ones I'm really looking forward to. I'm not sure when the release date is, though. I think it's probably first half of the year, maybe June, perhaps. So that's definitely one because I was near the top of my list from E3. I absolutely adored it. Rhyme, God, I'm not sure about Rhyme in terms of when it will actually release. It's been kind of quiet on that front for quite a while. Again, it's kind of in the same vein as Ico, effectively, where you're just this beautiful kind of deserted land. You're kind of traversing it, not really sure what's actually happening, but it's you're crafting this really impactful narrative, and it kind of looks a little bit like Wind Waker as well. And Tequila Works' previous game, I think Deadlight, it's called Deadlight, was a exclusive on the Xbox 360 and PC, and that got really well received. So they've had this one in the oven for quite a few years. So I'm hoping the end product will justify my anticipation and justify the long bloody wait. Jesus. But aside from that, Mother Russia Bleeds again. Carl and I did a video on it at E3. It's effectively it's published by Devolver Digital and done by Le Cartel. It's Double Dragon with those kind of 16-bit graphics mixed with that foreboding kind of synth music that Devolver Digital titles seem to have. You know, like Hotline Miami, as an example. It's just a really fun game. It's really gory as well. And it just harkens back to those kind of good like early 90s days. It's couch co-op and just playing the likes of Streets of Rage or Double Dragon. So more nostalgia based reasons it's up there. I played it as well. I really enjoyed it, so I'm hoping that does quite well. And The Witness as well, of course. Still not sure about that one. It's coming out in January, I think, but with Jonathan Blow.
I just can't believe that your excitement level for that game is still high enough to make your top
that's
10
the thing.
with just how long it's been.
I know it's tapered off a bit, but I don't know. It's just with the list, I was trying to find things that either resonated with me on kind of a narrative level, because I could have put like Deus Ex and stuff, but I enjoyed the what was it called again? Human Revolution. I enjoyed it, but I don't think the new one's going to reinvent the wheel. And I was just kind of looking for things that are going to be a bit more impactful for me. Like, I could have put FIFA 16 or FIFA 17 then, but I'm not going to, even though I'll play it loads. I don't know, just looking for things kind of just to diversify the list a bit. And The Witness again, yeah, it tapered off my excitement a little bit because it's been so long and kind of went really quiet for a while. And with Jonathan Blow, you're not really sure exactly what you're going to get, but I still think the excitement is warranted, and it's not too long till we find out actually if it's any good.
Yeah, and it always seems so impressive to me. I was fortunate enough to see it live a couple times. Once being played by Jonathan Blow at E3 a couple years ago, and again at the PS4's launch. And it looked great both times. But part of me worries that, and I'm a victim of this as well. Part of me worries that I'm a little bit too hung up on Jonathan Blow's one really really successful awesome game, and it is only one game.
Yeah,
it's only really been that one. So. And that hasn't been an issue for other people in the past. Supergiant made Bastion and then made Transistor, both loved games. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm subconsciously trying to keep my hype at a certain middling level because I want to enjoy it and I don't want to be disappointed. But I think it's going to be a good game. I just don't know if it's going to be a great, world-changing game.
Yeah, I think it's going to be quite divisive. We'll see. I guess critically, though, I think it will be. It'll hit some highs and there will be a couple of lows, but all I know is I think it's apparently supposed to be about 40 hours long, so for a puzzle game, that's pretty outrageous. I think the go-to excuse for all the delays has pretty much just been, we're adding more puzzles and stuff. It's like, okay. So, all right, we'll see.
I couldn't solve any of the puzzles they put in front of me when it was playable, and I felt like such an idiot because I got Jonathan Blow sitting behind me watching me play it. I'm like, I can't.
Yeah, because I think what kind of reinvigorated my excitement for the game was about 2 weeks ago I was playing the Talos Principle.
Oh, and good job.
They're not similar. They probably aren't going to be similar at all. But I don't know. It just kind of.
I don't know.
It just reignited something back in me that was like, The Witness. Yeah, when is that actually coming out? And I was like, it's January.
It's
so
just too bad that the Talos Principle puzzles are super easy for the most part.
Yeah.
Not until you get way later in the game.
I don't think you'll have that problem with Jonathan Blow because it's
yeah.
At least my limited experience of a puzzle that he I think told me is not even really that hard in the grand scheme of the game's puzzles. I'm like, I can't do this.
Well, that's good because I miss having like really challenging puzzle games.
Oh, dude, you're gonna love The Witness. Then that's the one thing. Like, if that's what you're into, and I'm into that up to a point. I'm not as experienced a puzzle solver as you. But if that's what you're into, man, this game should be on your radar for sure. Because I think they're pulling out all the stops, and I think he's really active on Twitter, and I think he's said a couple times that there are puzzles, at least a few in the game, that he is not convinced anyone will solve, at least for months and months and months.
Jeez.
Like certainly nobody in his circle of friends, nobody in his circle of developers has managed to solve it, and I know a lot of them he develops on his own without a team, without feedback from people. It's just
that just sounds rage-inducing.
It
and I
does, yeah.
can't wait.
It's gonna be fun if I mean, man, that game's gonna have such a community when it comes out because this is the perfect storm for a subreddit to spring up that just dives deep into the game's secrets for a year,
Mhm.
Oh,
and they're
yeah,
gonna be
yeah.
finding things for months and months and months to come. So that'll be really cool to see.
All right. Well, I think that probably takes some place of one of the games on my list then, probably. Because I didn't even really know much. I totally forgot about it until you started talking about it. But yeah.
Which game are you gonna take off to give it a space?
Well, last one on my list is Deus Ex.
Oh no!
So-
Get
Adam
it out of there, get it
Jensen!
I mean, it barely even
You
made
never
my
asked
list to
me.
begin with.
Kick it to the curb.
I don't know. It might replace something else than that, but I mean, does last. We can talk about Deus Ex now. The reason why I almost didn't even make my list was it goes back to what Adam was saying, that it's not reinventing the wheel by any means, really. They're
Sure.
adding some cool gameplay stuff, but the footage that we've seen, even though it was in pre-alpha, it still looks rough. Like it was in pre-alpha a couple months ago, or the footage when they first showed it, or whatever. And it's supposed to be coming out next
visually or
this year.
frame rate or those kind of things.
Visually. It just
Okay.
was. I mean, it just wasn't polished at all. The CG trailers looked really cool, but I mean, for the character models, the facial and mouth animations and stuff were
Sure.
just off. They weren't that good. Just even the animations for him moving around were a lot more gamey than I remembered them being in Human Evolution.
I suppose that 6 month delay is kind of emblematic of a lot more. Like some people were saying, oh, it's Square Enix is just trying to shift, to spread out releases and stuff. But it seems
it could
definitely
very-
emblematic
yeah,
of,
do that,
of
yeah.
way more underlying issues with the game. But
And
then
I
again,
I didn't fall in love with the previous game in terms of like story and stuff. I thought it was okay for the story. I mainly just liked this kind of new area to be able to explore his abilities and build him up and make him better. And is like what sold me on the first one was the initial cutscene trailer where it's like it ends it with him like sprinting towards a wall and then punching through it and breaking someone's neck, and then just slowly turn and walk away. And I was like, oh my god!
I remember that you had that image of him with like the orange and black, and he's looking through that hole in the wall as your
Yeah.
desktop wallpaper
That was for a
like
while.
a really long time.
That was I had that trailer on my PS3 for a long time too. It was like that was so cool. But that's the thing is like that was really really cool. It's the same thing that I think a lot of people had issues with in terms of like BioShock 2, why nobody liked it as much, was because it explored the whole reason why people loved BioShock 1 was because it was exploring a brand new world for the first time, and everything was mysterious. You didn't know why you were here, what was going on, or what you could do, where things were. And BioShock 2 was a really good game technically, and the story was pretty decent, but it treaded similar ground, and people just kind of turned off to it immediately. So that's what I'm afraid that Mankind Divided is going to do too much of the same, even though they'll add some extra mechanics and they're focusing more on balancing combat to make it fun, if you want to do that route.
I'm just afraid. I know we only saw the vertical slides, but I'm afraid its entire design philosophy will be a lot more linear than Human Revolution. But
for approaching environments.
That's what I don't know.
I don't know where. I disagree. I don't know.
I'm not sure what you're talking
I don't
about
know why
specifically.
I'm
Then
scared of that in particular.
Well, I don't know. I know there's different ways to approach specific scenarios and like environments, but I remember, again, I didn't play Human Revolution too much, but I remember just kind of literally walking around the outside and just like going into random different houses and stuff in the block and just kind of exploring a lot more. This one just seems paced more direct to like go from A to B. How you get in amidst that is different. You can go through different ways, but like you're getting to A to B, whereas there seem to be more lulls, I guess, in Human Revolution where you can kind of just walk around and
sure, like exploring kind of like this city areas more and going through the streets.
How
and
much
stuff,
have, how much
not
have you
just-
seen of this game, Adam? Because I feel like I don't know. I feel like that's a
They had like a half
leap,
hour
You know what I mean?
video a gameplay video.
I've only actually seen the initial. Was it the trailer where they are at the train station and then shows that for a little while and then it just culminates in like a boss battle type thing?
Oh, sure. There was a longer video
I
that
fe-
came
I
out
fe-
after too. So
Well, then I'm completely
and
wrong.
I feel you, but I'll tell you, you know, Human Revolution had its linear areas as well, but then I have no doubt that the hub worlds of Mankind Divided will be at least as big, if not bigger, than Human Revolution. I think that's just the structure of the game, you know. Even if it
Yeah,
is,
yeah.
I mean, and honestly, you know, even if you go to a new engine, you can pretty much copy paste the core of what Human Revolution was, and then just grow things from there. So, um,
That's one thing that
have no
seems
fear.
the one thing that
Just
seemed
wait
kind
and
of
see.
lost on it though. From what I liked in Human Revolution was it had almost kind of, it had more of a noir kind of feeling to it, where he was like he had his detective's office type of thing that he could go into. He'd have conversations with people going through there, and then he'd do like detective work on the street. This one, how they're portraying him, seems more as just like a hired gun, like just just an insurgent to kill everyone
That's what I was
off.
trying
Like,
to get to. So
yeah, like that. That's he's not. I do agree with Adam in that kind of regard that I'm kind of worried about that. I think there's going to be like the gameplay video that I saw. I can't remember when it was released, but it was like about a 30-minute gameplay thing of him exploring different areas, and they're commenting about how like the different routes you could take to go after these people if you want to avoid everybody, or you could go through the air vents. You could go up above on a ledge. You could go just down through the middle of them, and all these different things, but that was just a secluded area that wasn't just there were multiple areas to approach or multiple ways to approach this specific area, but there wasn't it didn't show any kind of like free roaming walking around kind of talking with people or exploring the streets or anything yet. So I do kind of agree with Adam in that regard, where I'm not sold on that yet. So yeah.
Ye of little faith. We'll see. We'll see. We got time yet.
Yeah, I just
a long
it's
time.
they don't have as much of a visual appeal to me either. The
I will,
games.
I will agree with you that the trailers for Mankind Divided, yeah, that noir feeling specifically, with you know Adam Jensen in his apartment and the dark shading, like the color in the new promo videos has seemed a little less purposeful. But part of me says maybe, oh, so maybe half of that is just you know it's not new anymore. It's just a sequel, and we know what Deus Ex is. But I do think half of that is, yeah, it I agree. It seems a little less. Um, Noir of a style and a little less aesthetically driven.
So we'll see. Hopefully we're wrong, but who knows? Uh, I know that Adam and I both had this on our list, which was Ratchet and Clank. This other one.
Yay!
Not on your list, Kyle, because apparently you hate Ratchet and Clank.
Jeez.
I forgot about it. It's. I mean, you know what? Yeah, that needs to be. All right, that officially pushes off Dark Souls 3
Oh,
down in the honorable mentions.
well, now you hate
Ratchet and
Dark
Clank,
Souls
number
3.
10.
Yeah.
I know, and I hate Ratchet and Clank. This is
Yeah.
number 10.
So yeah, Ratchet and Clank. I know. Did all of us get to play it? I got to play it at E3.
I
Yeah,
did.
I've played a bit of it.
Kind of got to play it. Yeah, so I guess I mean the reason why I'm excited about it is that it's not just like a reboot. It is a reboot of the franchise, but it's not just repackaging the original game. It looks and feels and like the story is like all entirely new in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
Like it's a totally new Ratchet and Clank game, and it played
And
the
I
best
couldn't
out of any.
believe. I mean, in the first few seconds of taking over Control Ratchet, like, it was immediately apparent to me that it controls better than any of the previous
Yeah.
games, which is it's so weird. And I think what sealed it for me, and you might remember too, Will, is that if you start firing in this one, I think you automatically kind of go into strafe mode, like very naturally. That game kind of it puts you into strafe, whereas before you had to like hold R2 or something to force that mode. And for this, it just felt a lot more organic, natural. Ratchet controlled as tightly as ever. I mean, it was apparent to me immediately that this was like the best version of Ratchet gameplay. And then yeah, it's a new story, but we also get to walk some of the same beats of like meeting Clank for the first time and going to some of these familiar cities like Metropolis or Megapolis.
Yeah, and then going through with Chairman Drek and the whole Quark storyline and all that. But you also have all of the newer weapons that have come through the games. That some of those are getting thrown into the original ones, so that'll make
Yeah.
totally new gameplay experiences when you're going through that story, as is or just with those. So
Yeah, it's gonna be great. That's definitely one of my early year picks. One of my favorites.
So as somebody who hasn't played it, Adam, why is it on your list?
I just love those type of games. I grew up like when I kind of, you know, finished with Crash Bandicoot and Spyro and stuff. Obviously, went into the PS2 and jumped on Jack, Daxter, and of course Ratchet and Clank, and just I kind of miss those days, those type of games. So like this is like a nice little kind of appetizer before the likes of like Ukulele comes out and other kind of 3D platformers. It's just, it's a genre that I always hold close to my heart. So whenever I see one come out, I make sure I kind of make time for it and make sure it's supported well if the game is good, because we just don't see a lot of them anymore.
Oh, that's very true. And even, toward the end of the Future series with Crack in Time, you were really not seeing very many platformers like this. In fact, hardly any. Ratchet and Clank was like the last bastion of the old school platformer, and now it's even rarer. Like in this generation, when's the last time? Maybe on the indie scene, they're starting to take hold a little bit more, and we're starting to see a little revival of these projects that are a little less mainstream marketable. But it's still the king. It's the reigning king in that space. So it's cool.
Yeah, I think it's just molded more so into the likes of kind of Disney Infinity now and Skylanders and stuff. That's the kind of the space it occupies at the moment. But there always will be, room for the likes of Ratchet and Clank or Jack and Daxter or whatever else, or Crash Bandicoot if he does come back, even though it's a different type of game, but still.
Just can't let it go, huh?
Hold the fate, guys. Hold.
All right, so I've got two more on my list so far, which are Gravity Rush 2 and Mirror's Edge Catalyst. So anything else on your guys' list that have been missed?
I've just got Street Fighter 5 as
Street Fighter 5. I did think about that one too for a bit, but I just know that I won't play that as much because I'm not as big of a fighting game fan as I like watching fighting game fans. I like watching people who know how to play fighting games more than playing them.
And see, that's the thing. I love Tekken. It's one of my favorite gaming series, and I always dipped into Street Fighter. I still go back and play Street Fighter 2 Turbo a bit, but I bought Super Street Fighter 4 because I was like, I want to get back into the series because I remember it was being received really, really well. But I just found the point of entry was just the skill ceiling was quite high, and I couldn't really get into it properly. But when I played 5 at E3 this year, I was kind of taken aback at how they kind of straddle the line between letting kind of new and I was able to actually pull off moves kind of from the get go and stuff. It didn't feel cheapened or kind of watered down at all. So it just seems like the point of entry was a little bit lower, so it kind of was way more appealing in that sense. And as a result, it still seems to have that complete depth and that kind of hardcore space that everybody loves. But I just think, for people like me who don't always play in that series, it's kind of the entry point will be a little bit lower, and I can jump in nicely come, I think, was it February? Yeah, we'll say February.
Yeah. So that was the only one on your list that's left?
Yeah, that came in at number 7.
Oh, number 7, really? What was that above?
It was above Ratchet and Clank, The Witness, and Mother Russia Bleeds. I just need a fighting game. Tekken 7 won't be out till probably later on in the year, and I just put this down because I haven't played Tekken 7 yet in the arcade or whatever else.
I just want another Injustice. That's pretty much what I'm waiting for.
Yeah.
I loved playing Injustice.
I didn't mind it.
Well, I loved it. I mean, I just love seeing it.
It just didn't speak to me.
It's a unique. I didn't mind this.
It's a unique. I mean, it's not the best fighting game out there, but it just delivers so much fan service for people who have wanted to see a really good, fighting game off of some of their favorite superheroes and villains. So
I get that.
But yeah, Street Fighter 5 was just incredibly smooth when we at E3.
Yeah, I was really, really impressed with it. So.
Yeah.
Give me Soul Calibur or give me death.
Soul Calibur on your list, Kyle? You're just hoping that one will come out next year?
Yep, HD remake of Soul Calibur 3.
Yeah. So what else?
No, go back to the days of Soul Blade, man.
Yeah, it's the only fighting game I've ever put any significant time into. I'm just not a genre fan. So, but yeah, Street Fighter looks dope. A lot of people excited for that one.
So what else do you got on your list then, Kyle?
I only have one, and that is Tacoma by Fulbright, who developed Gone Home on PC. And Gone Home has a place of special significance for me, not only because I loved the game and I loved not just its story, which is innovative and it tells a unique, very intimate, personal story that not many games care to tread or dare to tread, but it's very, very unique in the way the story is what you make of it, and the details of that house you explore are it's yours to interpret. There's theories to develop, but the way you interpret it, for me at least, and I wrote a thesis about Gone Home, or at least it factored into my college thesis in such a way that it felt kind of self-expressive, because when I played Gone Home, I could feel my own memories of growing up. I could feel my own knowledge of what a family's house looks like, factoring into the way I interpreted this house and these family portraits and these little mementos, these keepsakes that littered their house. So it felt very expressive and very personal for that reason. And the fact that Fulbright can make that game speaks volumes about what quality of storytelling they can do with that studio. An interesting point, I believe Steve Gaynor and maybe one or two others at Fulbright developed the Minerva's Den DLC for BioShock, and specifically wrote that story, which was very critically acclaimed. BioShock 2 specifically, even more so than the base game, it was critically acclaimed as this amazing story. So with Tacoma, it's still very much a mysterious game. All we know at this point is that you're exploring a space station that is deserted, and ostensibly your goal is to find out why. Where did all the people go? Why is nobody here? And I'm not even sure if we know who you are yet, the main character. But it's a very different space from Gone Home. It's no longer this kind of personal West Coast or Pacific Northwest city. It's now out in space. It's science fiction. It's got little nods to BioShock with these audio logs and these terminals that you find. So to take their storytelling prowess and the way they kind of give the player things to interpret based on your own life experiences, I just can't wait to see what that looks like on the space station, because it almost seems to be harkening back to their BioShock roots a little bit with its aesthetic and the way the space station looks. So very, very excited.
Interesting.
And Gone Home is coming out on PS4 next month.
It is. I might replay it just for the trophies, if nothing else.
Yeah, no, I need to play it. I've always heard so much, so I am definitely.
See, I haven't played it, but it's at the point where I feel like it's just that so much of it would just be lost on me at this point because of how much people talked about it.
I was lucky enough.
And I don't like
early where it's.
Didn't you say like it's like you exploring a home and then referencing like a younger sister and stuff and all that?
I've heard you're supposed to go into it absolutely blind.
Yeah, because I mean, like you talked about how that was really powerful for you. I remember because you have a younger sister, and it's like, well, I don't have one of those, so it's like, is that gonna change the impact of the narrative for me? That kind of stuff, and
Maybe,
I know
think,
most of the game.
I think what's really cool about that house and the fact that it's so packed with detail about every family member is that there's something different that everybody will latch onto in a different way. Like, just because the younger sister storyline resonated with me, but that's not to say that details you uncover about the father or the mother might not mean something special to you that I don't pick up on, or that I don't really that don't click with me in my experience. So it is tough though. I feel you in one sense where it's like you've at this point heard me talk about the game so much, and I'm sure heard other people talk about the game, and that's a tough one to go in when you're expecting something really dramatic out of it, because it was almost more powerful for the ways that it took me by surprise, because I wasn't expecting to spend all this time thinking about these details and kind of building my own theories in my head about the family and their relationships, but that's really what the game became. But now that I've said that to you, I feel like that maybe taints your thoughts. Like, you go into the game having some loose idea of what it meant to somebody else, and that could interfere with your experience.
It's the same thing like with Journey. When you tell people now that it's like Journey is like one of the best games ever made and you're gonna love it, and then it's like people aren't as impacted by it because they're told they're gonna love it, and it's like, oh,
right, they spend too much time thinking about, does this game measure up to what I've been told, and not enough time just thinking about the experience that they're having and letting the game kind of wash over them.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's tough, but I'm excited for Tacoma. Extremely, extremely excited. I mean, it's far and away the indie title that has my attention more than anything else.
Okay. So yeah, then the last two on my list were Gravity Rush 2 and Mirror's Edge Catalyst. Gravity Rush 2, I just mainly I want to see where the game goes. I want to see where the story goes. I want to see what happens in that world, because that was pretty much at the time when it was out, that was the only game that Vita had really at the time, in terms of like a big scale kind of this is a Vita game when for the first Gravity Rush came out. So that's why I'm excited for Gravity Rush 2. I just want to see. As I was so disappointed when it ended because I thought it was just a standalone. I thought it was just forever going to be a standalone, and I was like, you have so much more world that you just teased in front of us to explore, and you're just gonna leave it there. And I was like, I just got really upset about it because I really liked the premise to it, and I liked how it went. The controls were kind of wonky, but I'm hoping that PS4 will give better control for that, and they're adding extra elements to it. I think it'll be interesting to see. I know that Ernest had that on his list as well. And then Mirror's Edge, Catalyst, I was hyped more than I should have been for the first Mirror's Edge.
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of the first Mirror's Edge. Like, it broke my heart when I went to GameStop probably only 2 months after it came out, and it was down to like €5. I was heartbroken.
Yeah, like I was so sold on that game from what I heard about it and the first trailers and all that stuff, and I thought it was going to be this just phenomenal revolutionary title, and then it just fell short in so many ways. Some people love it to death. I'm not sure why.
Yeah, that's like there's almost like this glass ceiling that some people got past, and to them which it sounds like Adam is in this camp where it becomes this. I mean, I'm sure, Adam, you've probably played through it multiple times, right? And that's like the appeal of it, is that you can keep running through it, and it becomes this loop, this cycle of just making small perfections, and getting your run down
you
even
can be
further.
more efficient in how you do it, but it's just the story was terrible. The visuals sucked. The paths were way too linear than what they were promising. But
it looked lovely.
Yeah, when you're running it, like in it was
And the
mainly
soundtrack
it was
was very good too.
Yeah, the soundtrack was amazing. It was mainly like the faces were just like so poor in game, and it was just like, and it was so short. That was the other thing. Is like, and the whole game is about like they want you to play through. They want you to be faster, getting them more efficient. So it's like you want us to beat your game that's already really short in a faster amount of time. It's like your goal.
It's definitely worth the €5.
And it's just, I mean, when it's that cheap, But I played Catalyst at E3 for a little while. It didn't sell me on it. It had more promise to it, where it's going to be more of an actual open world where you can explore the city. Like you can just go anywhere. You're not restricted to these really linear paths. So that immediately kind of addresses one of the biggest flaws in it that I had, or the biggest reservations I had with the first game. But it's going more towards Assassin's Creed style in terms of the missions, like little mini missions that are around the map, and like dead drops, and that you go and you walk over to this. And this is actually the exact same thing as in Infamous Second Son, where you have to you tag the billboards to repaint them with your logo. In Mirror's Edge Catalyst, you walk up to these big giant digital billboards and you hack into them, and it changes to your logo. And it was just like, okay, that's not that creative, because I literally just saw this happen not that long ago with another game. So it's got a lot of back and forth for me. It's got a lot of promise to it. It's so much, to me, it's riding on how they deal with Faith and her storyline and where that goes. Because I think she's a really great character. I'm just sad that she doesn't have a better story surrounding her, or they haven't treated her as good as they should have, in my view. But I mean, the game, movement was pretty fluid. There were some kind of jerky moments where you just lose your momentum and stuff. But I love the fluidity of the feel of those games, or that of the first game. It was just so overshadowed by a lot of other things that it sounds like they're all addressing. So
yeah, that's the thing. When it worked, it really, really worked well. But the shortcomings kind of became more evident. The more you slowed down, and the more you kind of really took the time to look around and kind of explore the mechanics properly. Mm-hmm. But going from A to B as quick as you could, and when it worked, it was fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I mean, that's what I'm hoping, is that they've learned from the past mistakes and they're fixing all those issues, and it sounds like they're addressing pretty much everything that I took issue with the first time. But I don't know if I'm totally sold on the direction of being more kind of Assassin's Creed type of environment, with little tiny random missions scattered around, and I just don't want it to be a bunch of things to do, and not a bunch of actual content that's important to do.
Yeah, I'm just sick of that sort of thing at the moment. I've just been saturated by it.
Right.
I hope, yeah. Like, I just want them to. I'm actually. I think it's surprising that we're even getting a sequel. To be honest, I know a lot of
Yeah.
people have pined for it. I was the same. Yeah, I just hope they don't kind of forego that kind of certain linearity with the game. Like, I want it to have a central focus. I don't want to be interrupted by having to go places for just these menial, arbitrary tasks and like pickups and stuff.
Yeah, I don't want it to be like, oh, you have to go talk to this person, but before you do that, you have to do 10 dead drop missions where you take this thing and run it to another place, and you have to go across the city and do another one. And it's like
Yeah,
it's just it bogs down too much of the gameplay for me when games do that now. But yeah, so that's my top 10 list.
loads of great, great games.
Yeah. Thank you for listening to our conversational podcast about our top 10 games for 2016. And not only is this conversation between us, it's a conversation between you guys as well. So please let us know what your top 10 lists are in the comments below. And as always, thank you for listening to episode 10 of PlayStation Fix. We'll see you guys in the next episode.
Bye.
Thank you.